Hey everybody, this is John Hiley. We are going to be doing a 15-inch crease here, as you can see from edge to edge, 15 inches in length in 15 minutes. I'm going to let you guys in on a technique that I've been using on these lower bedsides on trucks to really speed up the way a crease actually comes out. So here we go, looking across it. We got it measured up. You see how it kind of fades out there at the end. And something I want you guys to notice as well, there is a kind of scratch scuff through the center of this crease. We'll take a little bit of a look at that further. Ideally, this right here is my setup. It's actually a little bit cold this morning, so I do have an infrared heating lamp just kind of warming the panel up. I do have a creeper here on the floor that I'm going to slide underneath there, and my light is up above where I can actually look at it from the bottom, from down there on the floor. So what we're going to start the damage out here is a Craftsman Auto Hammer. And this has been adapted to actually fit a tip on there that's used for paintless dent removal. Now I'm going to put some gaffer's tape over top of our plastic nylon tip. This tape can actually be purchased at any camera store, video, or audio store. And it is great for that anti-slip, and it also softens up the push. So here's what you don't want to happen with this auto hammer. You do not want it to start bouncing. You want a real, nice, smooth, fluent. Just like that. You do not want the bouncing. When it starts bouncing, you have a problem. You got to control this thing and make it nice and fluent. And it does have a trigger response to where the harder you pull the trigger and the harder you push down on it, the harder it hits. So you might want to play around with it a little bit on a practice panel and just try to get a smooth vibration on this auto hammer. Because I'm actually going to reach my hand up underneath there and begin working that crease from one side to the other. Now I'm not going to start in the middle. I'm going to start on one end of the crease, which is the most shallow, and I'm just going to work myself back and forth from the back side of the panel. So you can see here I'm lining myself up so I can begin working it from a few different angles. So I got that angle right there, and then I have my original angle. So now I'm actually going to go ahead and slide into place. This is the other angle that we could use, sliding underneath there, and I've got my auto hammer on the back side now. I'm actually kind of just getting a feel for it at this point, trying to get that real nice vibration style. Again, we do not want this thing to start jumping on us, but you can see there, little by little, you can see the crease begin to start ironing out. Now this right here will remove this 15-inch crease in about 2 minutes to a 90% level. So it's not going to get it perfect, but we're going to, in essence, flip it inside out so we can begin controlling it with our knockdown work from the upper side of the panel. So you can see here that I'm just kind of working my way through. I'm trying to get a little bit of pressure going on right now, so I'm actually holding on to the outside of the panel while I'm working little spots there. And now I'm going to take a look and see what we have going on here. I'm actually looking into the camera. I'm getting so used to doing video work that I'll look into the camera to find little lows. So you can see that I've got a little low running through right there that I pointed out there on the camera. Adjusting my light a little bit. Again, I'm down here on a creeper underneath the panel. It's essential that you look at it from this angle. You have to look at a crease in the same direction that the crease goes. So the crease was going a long ways down at the bottom of this bed. I need to be on the floor looking up at that, or somehow I need to be above it looking down at that. However, you're going to find that the laying on the floor is going to be the easiest alternative because you have the most access from the floor. So you can see there, we zipped that crease out. You can actually see a little bit of that scratch I was talking about right there on that last low we finished. However, you can see I zipped this crease into a little bit of nothingness within a couple minutes. That's real time right there, guys. Now I'm actually going in for a little bit of knockdown work. This kind of reminds you of glue pulling in the sense that you're flipping a dent inside out to control it from the top side of the panel. So now I can conveniently get into this position where I'm looking straight down at it, and I can tap out all of my little high spots. So again, running through this, you can actually, again, you can see that line right in the middle. If you see where the darker part of the fog is directly in the middle of that light, that little line that's running through there, that's actually a scratch. Now we are going to wet sand that out. It's a little bit deep, however, I think we can minimize it if we do a little bit of wet sanding to it. Yeah, we promised this gentleman who owns the vehicle that we would get the scratch out best possible. However, we didn't make any promises because the scratch, you could actually feel it with your thumbnail in there. When you're running your finger and your thumbnail over it, you could feel it pretty nice actually catching your nail. So I do expect for it to be minimized. However, I don't expect for the scratch to be 100% gone. Not really having a big problem though seeing through this scratch. So I can actually still continue to see the metal and see through it to where I need to hit or where I need to push to make this crease disappear. So here we go. Let's go ahead and take a look at it at this point. You can still see that scratch, but as you can see, the dent has ironed out quite a bit. Now there are some little bitty lows through here that we're going to address. And I still got a few little bitty lows, as you can see right here. You can see just little ones around that scratch line that I'm actually going to go ahead and go in there and knock them out with the dent dial. But let's go ahead and get rid of that scratch first. And one of the reasons why I didn't want to wet sand it to begin with, it's just not fun wet sanding inside of a pit or a crevice. So I want to bring the dent up a little bit before, so I can actually have a nice surrounding perimeter surface that I can wet sand through. And here we are with the dent dial. So quick, easy setup here. You know, a lot of guys talk about the time that it takes to set this up. The way that I'm setting this up would probably take a minute or two. So we got this backing plate that's going to go on the back side of the dent dial, and that's going to create the leverage inside of the truck bed. So I already took a look in there. It's pretty wide up there towards the upper part of the truck bed, and this right here is what's going to push. It's an actual crease itself. It does have leather on top of it to protect from any harsh high spots or high points. So we're going to go ahead and spin that one into place. And we're going to do what Sal likes to call directional pushing with his tool here. And I'm actually going to make this attachment here that looks like a crease. I'm going to turn it into the angle of the crease that I'm working. So it comes in right at that crease, just like that. And you can see here that I am using the heavy duty dent dial, and I'm going to be inside the bed pushing just like this. Now this thing gives you massive strength inside of the bedsides. In fact, anywhere that you can actually set this thing up, usually you're getting a lot of strength with your pushes. So be careful with it. However, that's what I've got the leather on here for, so I can actually overmold some of these really little tiny lows that I have here and get them out without leaving any type of push marks inside of there. You can see here again, I've got my light set up where I'm looking up at it. Got both hands on that dent dial for maximum control. And I'm kind of just pulling it towards my head. So that plate that you see up there at the top is way up there in that cavity. And in the middle of this flat bar is where I'm making my pushes. So I'm actually pulling towards my head to make them pushes. Extreme power on this thing. I'd like to show you a camera angle here. However, I would literally have to have the camera on top of my head, and it would be very tough to be able to get this shot. We're going to get a few shots of the dent dial coming in from the side angle there. However, if you remember correctly, there was very few little lows that we really had to go in here and go after. But I'm going to try to get this angle of the repair completely done. But just like any crease, or just like any dent for that matter, we're always going to need to cross-check. So My idea on a crease is to actually get it ironed out the best you possibly can from your starting angle and then go into your cross-checking. However, it's always important, guys, I'm going to stress this, to be watching the cross-check angle during the whole repair. Now, I was doing this with some of my natural reflections. So as I got up and I switched things and I replaced the camera here and there, I was looking down the natural reflections to make sure that it was coming up nice and symmetrical. Although with creases, you are always going to need to cross-check, especially with a crease this large. So again, just kind of getting in there and ironing out the little details there. And now I'm actually going to go into a knockdown session from down below. No need to adjust the light or make any moves at this point. Just going to go ahead and lay down here and look at it and do my knockdown. If you notice here how I'm actually holding the hammer and knockdown, I still got a good view of the tip of my knockdown touching the panel. That's key. I mean, when you change up your technique, when you're knocking down a panel, make sure that your eyes can see the connection point between the tip of the knockdown and the panel. It's so often that I see people take their eyes off the connection point. It's a lot of times it's natural, even when you're hammering in a nail, when you're anything that you're hammering, it's natural to look at the back of whatever you hit. And that's one of the things that you've got to change when doing paintless dent removal is you got to begin looking at the connection point of the object that you're hitting. So you got to see that connection point between the tip of the hammer and knockdown and the panel of the car. So there I am, kind of doing a little bit of cross-checking there. Sorry about the belly show there, guys. Hey, you know, it's tough business here. You got to roll around on the floor. So a little bit more knockdown work there. You notice how I turned my light right there? That's a method of cross-checking. Even when you're in this position right here, you can turn that light and begin your cross-checking. However, we're going to have to go in and check it out with what I call a hard angle, and we're going to take it in at a complete opposite angle that we're working the damage. So here we are. And you can see there some little bitty tiny lows that I still have from that cross-check angle. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to be using the Dent Dial again for some nice precision, strong pushing, but I actually flipped my crease attachment upside down, and this is one of my techniques that I like to use to get a sharper push. I just used the back side of the bolt here, so I'm actually going to be going in and doing my pushing with this side of the attachment. So you can see here I got it set up kind of opposite to my original setup there with the center of the bar. So again, going to go ahead and throw my Dent Dial up there. And real nice thing about this, I'm conveniently putting my arm there on the tire. I'm getting my cheek up to the side of the panel, and I'm just looking down there to isolate and hit them few little spots that we have to finish this repair. Once again, there you go. You can see my little pushes there. These are real nice, sharp little pushes. And very quickly, I'm going to go in there and just make and hit all them little bitty spots that need to be hit. And again, cheek up against the car. You're going to get your face dirty perhaps if you don't clean the vehicle, but get used to that. Get used to getting that cheek, that face right up against that vehicle. That's your tight reflective angle. That's your finishing angle. Now, I'm going to go ahead and run through it with the knockdown work. Common theme there. You know, push, 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 knockdown, knockdown, knockdown. And at this point, I'm just blending out with a hammer and knockdown. Just trying to make that thing look good at this tight reflective angle. I do believe that's, on this vehicle, that's probably the best finishing angle. But you can see here, we are completely finished with this crease repair. You still see a little bit of that scratch in there, but needless to say, the customer was very, very pleased with the results here on this crease on his bedside. We were able to move through this repair in 15 minutes. I mean, you guys seen there, I had 90% of it knocked out with the auto hammer. We only used 4 tools here, if you want to count my hammer and knockdown as a tool. And right here was our lineup. We had the Dent Dial. We used the Crease attachment. We used the backside of the Crease attachment. And we used the Craftsman Auto Hammer. We used my signature hammer and knockdown there. And that was it, guys. So 15 minutes on this repair. And one of the things I want to touch on here is that the Auto Hammer is really what sped up this specific repair, and using it with the proper technique is what's needed. Now, guys, if you have a super deep dent, this thing is really powerful and it can crack the paint. So you need to practice with it. You need to understand the learning curve with the Auto Hammer. I recommend getting a practice panel and using it. Learn the technique of actually moving that thing fluently across the panel without it jumping. That's when you start getting into problems, guys. When that thing starts jumping on you, I mean, it can absolutely rip a panel apart from the backside. I mean, it's really that strong. So begin learning the technique as far as the pressure you apply versus the amount of trigger pull, and learn how to get that thing to just buzz right across the panel. And you'll be amazed at the time you'll save on creases, especially on bedsides. Next, the Dent Dial is a wonderful tool that's going to give you leverage that is unsurpassed on a bedside. So with this tool right here, I was able to go in there, and with little bitty lows that I had left behind, I was able to make nice, soft, directional pushes to basically shape them things up quick. So we took out 90% of the dent with the Auto Hammer. We took out the last 10% with the Dent Dial, and we used the hammer knockdown the entire time, shaping and blending that panel. So anyhow, guys, I appreciate having you along for this tutorial, and I absolutely look forward to seeing you on the next one.